Hello, everyone, and welcome to BFW 2401. This is week 11, and we are talking about capital adequacy. This is part 4, and we are focusing in this part on the internal approach. Now, in part 3, we talked about the standardized approach, which is calculating the capital adequacy ratio according to the tables provided by Basel Committee. In this part, no, the regulators and the financial institutions, they will have some type of understanding and coordination to calculate it based on statistical methods. Now, when we talk about statistical methods, it's just like what we talked when we calculated the gears and the risk matrix in week 9. You have to calculate, you have to start with something called the VAR, the value at risk. So you have to have enough data, you have to have distributions, and from that data and distributions, you can estimate how much is the risk. That risk is the capital charge. Then multiply it by 9.52, you transfer it to what we call risk-weighted assets. So you can do this for credit risk, for market risk, for operational risk, for interest rate risk, for every type of risk using these methods. Now, this, as I told you, has to be coordinated between the regulators and the financial institutions. Who is using this? Malaysia is using this. Who is using Australia are using this also. So it's actually you ignore completely the tables that are provided by Basel, as long as you have the data and as long as you have the expertise to come to this, to calculate your risk, which is actually you need a capital to buffer that risk. That risk is defined by the VAR, which is the area from, if we are talking about credit risk, you have, for example, the credit risk is 5%, maybe 2% of this already in the provisions, so you need actually 3%. Now, if you have 15%, and you have only 2% of provisions, you need 15% of capital. And this is the whole concept. How do we use it? How important is it for this class? It is actually, our focus is on the standardized model, which is using the tables, but maybe I'm not focusing much on it, but it's very important for you. And I think I want you to know that it exists. So if you go later on to the industry, you know at least something is happening like this. As far as the tests concerned, maybe you will have some 1 or 2 multiple choice questions in the next test, express your understanding about this internal model. That's all about it. So let me now share. So if you are talking about here, so we are talking about the, for example, here, we are talking about the advanced approach or internal approach. And we call it advanced approach. We call it also internal models, because through this is, whether we are talking about advanced approaches or internal model approach, we are actually departing from the tables or the standardized model. So we, just to look at the definition here, advanced approach uses technical statistical method for calculating capital requirement, usually based on value at risk techniques. Now, to do this, you have to have expertise. And I don't think big bank have a problem with this. And also you have to have enough data. So you need so many years of data. For example, if you are talking about credit risk, you need data of defaulting on the credit risk for housing loans, for credit cards, for business loans, and you have to have that few years so you can build the distribution and calculate the value at risk. So the internal model have the credit risk, and that has internal ratings. You can do internal ratings for the credit risk, but the advanced approach is actually the statistical method. For the market risk, you can use internal, what you call model approach or advanced measurement approach. Both of them actually are using some statistical methods. For operational risk, we use only advanced measurement, which is the statistical. For interest rate risk, we use internal model approach. Now, just to come here, this is the advanced approach. So the credit risk is two approaches here. A foundation internal rating based approach. So you have an internal rating instead of the rating by the rating agencies, and advanced internal rating based approach. So the value at risk use probability distribution of market prices to measure the risk. So the probability of bank becoming insolvent depends on the bank's level of risk and the amount of capital. So therefore, bank must hold amount of capital necessary to reduce the probability of insolvency, which means if you look at this distribution, this is a distribution of the credit risk. And this is all the losses coming from the credit risk, as I told you, from the housing, and you are calculating this according to all observations of all those years. So in this case, up to this area, which is the mean, this area is covered by the our provisions. But from here to 99%, if you are taking confidence for 99%, all of this is actually the capital you need. So if this is 15% here, now part of it is covered by the provisions. And so, for example, if the calculation show you the VAR is from here to here is 13% or 10%, this is the capital you need. But if you look at the distribution from here to here, all of this is distribution. Maybe it's 13% or 15%. If this is 5%, so this should be 10%. This is how it works. So in this case, you have to estimate actually the loss, what we call distribution. You have to calculate the loss distribution, which means you have to calculate how much is the losses, and you have to have this distribution for all the losses. And then you have to calculate the VAR. And after you calculate the VAR, you transfer this VAR to, it is the capital charge. You multiply it by 9.52. If you look at those steps, you multiply it by 9.52 and you get the risk-weighted assets. And then in that case, if you have the risk-weighted assets, this is just for credit risk. You can have it for market risk, for operational risk, for all those risks. You put it in the denominator, and the denominator is the capital coming from the balance sheet, and see if the bank is satisfying or not satisfying the ratios that are coming through Basel. Now, some of them, like this, the IRB approaches, you can have foundation approach, which means it is the estimations is coming through the regulators and the financial institutions. But the advanced approach, all values are calculating by the banks. So it's actually, you have foundation approach and you have what we call advanced approach, but all of them is coming, as I told you, all of them is departing from the internal model. Now, from the what we call standardized model. Now, if you look now to the market risk, which we use internal model approach, this is the market risk. As you can see, it's very easy. So if you have the prices here, and this is the VAR, which is the decrease in the value, and this is 1%, you just calculated this, and this is actually the market risk. Operational risk is the same thing. You have to calculate the operational risk, as you can see. You can use the advanced measurement approach, which means you have to calculate the VAR. You have provisions for any losses. And then you have to calculate this area of the VAR. So most important thing is to calculate the VAR. So as you can see, whether you are talking about operational risk, or you are talking about credit risk or market risk, all of those is actually calculating the value at risk, and the value of at risk is actually the capital charge. You multiply it by 9.52, and then you get the risk-weighted assets. As you can see, all of this need data and need expertise, and big banks can do that. So we have also non-traded interest rate risk charges, non-traded interest rate risk-based capital, which means this is for the assets, which is for the banking book. This is required only for depository institutions that use internal risk management for credit risk, market risk, and operational risk. We don't use it for the standardized model. So we need to calculate this, and it is actually required for those people who are at those banks, which is using those internal models. Now, I think we have done with this. Just to recap what we have said. So Basel III is actually 3 pillars. First pillar is the capital adequacy requirements, whether we are using internal model or standardized model. And if we are using the standardized model, it's we have to, this is a new definition for capital. We have to change the capital adequacy ratio. We have to include leverage ratios within the framework of Pillar 1. So this is also included. We have to, this is what Pillar 1 is doing. This is how it starts. And Malaysia started in 2000, it will end in 2019 and already ended. But this is the Australian regulations actually, which is not a big issue here. All I want to say is that Basel III is actually Pillar 1, Pillar 2, and Pillar 3. This is Pillar 1, and in Pillar 1 is also requiring what we call 2 buffers. This one is already under is already effective. And this one is the counter cycles, which we talked about it, and we said regulators have the right to impose it when there is much volatility or instability in the financial market or the financial system. Now, maybe we didn't talk a lot about risks, Pillar 2, and this is all you need to know about Pillar 2. So Pillar 2 stress the managerial responsibility and accountability of risk measurement and management. EBRA, which is the Australian regulator, adjusts prudential capital ratios for each depository institution, not less than the regulated minimums. So they can do that. They can do the what you call prudential capital ratios for each depository institutions. They can amend it. They have the right to amend it according to Pillar 2, but it doesn't have to go under the 10.5. Now, Pillar 3, as I told you, it's so this is management and Pillar 2, as I told you, and also it gives some rights to the regulators. Pillar 3 is about how much information is actually produced by the financial institutions, so it can activate the what we call the market discipline. So we are talking about transparency and the bank disclosures, which is a key factor for effective market discipline. This is actually the summary, nothing much to say about it. And this is actually the end of Part 4. I don't want you to worry a lot about Part 4 because I don't intend to cover it, extensively, maybe in the future. But this time, I want you really to know that if you are departing from the credit risk If you are departing from the standardized model, which we discussed in part 3, you can use the VAR to calculate all those risks, integrate them, calculate the risk matrix, then calculate what we call the that risk is the capital charge for all those risks, and then you transfer it to risk-weighted assets by multiplying by 9.52. So this model will allow you to calculate the VAR. The VAR is the capital required or the capital charge that you have to transfer to risk-weighted asset by multiplying by 9.52. There is so many process here, but as I told you, the expertise and the data is the one that will make this this approach effective. And this is what the Malaysian banks actually are doing. I will stop sharing and I want to thank you. This is the end of part 4, and maybe this is the end of the most important topic in this semester. Thank you very much and see you in the tutorials in the workshops. Bye-bye.